Viewers, you're welcome to this week's episode of The Mirror with Beauty Benjamin. This morning we'll be talking on the topic youths and drugs. And I have with me this point to talk about this topic Reverend Christy Bature Ogbefi, who's the founder of a 180-degree rehab center. Ma'am, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here. I don't want to limit it to just the youths alone, but for today, we're talking about the youths and drug abuse. And in every home, the normal paracetamol, people also abuse it. But first, what is drug abuse? I'm sure the viewers want to know what drug abuse is before we go into other things.
Abuse as a word is two words together, abnormal use.
Okay.
So when you take abnormal use, remove the normal, it becomes abuse. So when we talk about drug abuse, it is the use of drugs, whether prescribed, over the counter, or any substance that constitutes hard drug. It is the use of it outside the norm.
Okay.
Outside what is supposed to be.
Yeah.
For example, I'll go to an extreme example. There's a plant called the coca plant. The coca plant grows in temperate areas, in hilly areas, and the people who grow it use it in its natural form as a painkiller.
Okay.
Is the vegetable they put in their food, is what they use to treat topical wounds. But people go to them, buy the coca plant, fly it to developed countries, take it into a lab, and produce cocaine.
Jeez.
You see, so now it's a chemical substance. It's no longer in its original form. That when you start using the cocaine, you are abusing the coca plant.
Wow.
Okay, so abuse is any use that is outside of the norm. But when we talk about drug abuse with respect to the youths, we're talking about substances that are harmful, substances that alter the personality, alter the mood, alter the brain chemistry, mess with the electrical impulses in the brain. Is many things at once. So drug abuse is using any substance outside of the norm.
Okay. Now, how do you, as a parent, how do you get to know or discover when your child is abusing a particular drug, or before you get to that extent? How do you get to know? Because, I mean, of course, they're living with you in the house.
Well, a lot has to do with how observant the parents are.
Okay.
You have to be really, really observant. And, you know, the more this thing is eating into our society, the better the children are getting at hiding what's going on. But if you have known your children closely or intimately as they grew up, when there's a shift in their person, in their character, you will notice it. It's just that many parents notice, but they don't know how to interpret what they're seeing.
Okay.
You understand? You may notice it, but you just say, oh, sometimes we chalk it down to, oh, he's just a teenager. He's getting into teenage and blah, blah, blah. My son, one of my sons left for secondary school and came back, and his whole attitude changed. He became quiet, withdrawn. And I said to my husband, what's wrong with this boy? He said, oh no, it's because he's leaving home for the first time. That's how he interpreted it.
Yeah.
He went back from that holiday, came back after the second term, more withdrawn. By the third term, I knew something was wrong. So I began to pray. I said, God, what's wrong with this boy? And honestly, I know it's the Holy Spirit. He told me he's experiencing puberty and he doesn't understand what is going on. He's confused. So I went to his room. And I said to him, are you noticing this, that? And he put his head down and said, yes, Mom.
Wow.
So I sat with him and I explained what was happening to his body, the physiological changes that were happening because of his age. I even told him that one day he may wake up and his voice will be big and it may shock him and all of that. And you know, by the second day, I'm not exaggerating, my son's personality sprang back. Because now he understood what was happening
to him.
So I'm not odd, I'm not weird, I'm not sick. It's normal. Before then, if you entered his room without knocking, the quarrel would be deep. But the very next day, I don't know what happened. I just entered his room and he was tying a small towel. He had just come out of the bathroom. And his breast at this point had swollen because of puberty.
Wow.
Yes, some boys can have that at the onset of puberty. The breast will swell. So I said to him, look at your breast. He said, leave it. It's maturity. And we had a great laugh because now he could laugh about it since he now understood what was happening. So sometimes the parents see what is going on, but they don't accurately interpret what's going on, and then things would have fallen apart before they realize, oh, so that thing I was noticing was an effect of abuse of drugs or using harmful substances and all of that. So the parents have to be very observant. If your child suddenly wants to start going out more than before, try and find out where they're going. If he suddenly or she suddenly has more friends than usual, try and find out what's going on here. Don't just assume. For some, if you notice the behavior is way out of line, do a drug test.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that is cheating us now is because we have reached a place where parents are afraid of their children.
Seriously.
They won't put their foot down, they won't lay down the rules, and they won't enforce them.
I think it's a wrong way of raising up children.
Absolutely. If you notice that your child's behavior is very odd, please don't hesitate. Look for a lab, do a broad spectrum drug test.
Okay. Now let me get a little personal now on this issue now, the breast thing now, because how old was this your child, this your son?
He was 10.
Now, because right now I'm shocking myself because I have a son who is 11.
Okay.
And at this age now, his breast is swollen, and I'm like, man, what's happening? Because it's big and all that, and I'm like, I want to take you to the hospital. Let me find out. He said, Mommy, nothing. I said, no, I can't be having breast like this. And also now, you just opened my eyes that something is happening around
the onset of puberty. For some boys, they can even have something come out of the breast.
Wow, because
they're producing hormones, and they have estrogen too.
And he's so conscious, I mean,
of it. Yeah.
You cannot see him as he's getting to the bathroom. He's going in there with his towel, with his boxer, with his singlet. He's covering. As he's coming out, he's coming out. I said, let me help you and cream. He said, how can you cream my body now? Mommy, why? And I'm like, let me help. No. So, okay, that's
puberty.
I think it's going to help me now to now as an expert in counseling against this drug abuse. Now, how would you describe societal reactions against non-drug abusers who may have been reformed? You know, when you reform them,
part of the worry of most people who have used drugs is the societal stigma.
Yes.
Yesterday, I had a school bring their children to do an excursion to the rehab center.
Okay.
And the kids came in, they're primary 5 children. And the questions they were asking were awesome. They asked me, how do you help a person who has been to rehab? Now, the biggest issue we have is the stigmatization. One of the things I told the children yesterday was, people who use drugs are not bad people. They just made wrong choices or bad choices. But you see, we label them because we don't separate rehabilitation from psychiatry. And even people who have to have psychiatric help, we shouldn't label them.
That's the problem having this side of the country. Everything is being stigmatized.
Yes.
Once you come out and say, look, I have this issue,
boom.
It's like your...
So we have to educate the society and tell them, look, people that have mental health issues are not mad. They're not bad people. Depression is a mental health issue. But you see, we don't talk about it. And if you tell a person who has depression, you need to see the psychiatrist. Oh, no, I'm not crazy. I'm not mad. But what
the first thing that comes to mind.
What they don't realize is that only the psychiatric doctor is licensed to prescribe the medications that a depressed patient needs. So seeing the psychiatrist doesn't immediately translate to being psychotic. Rehab is not the same as psychiatry.
At all.
No. I agree that some people use drugs to the point where they become psychotic, in which case they need the psychiatric doctor. But more times than not, rehab is separate from psychiatry.
Okay.
In our rehab, we have a drug-free zone. In America and other developed countries, they have what you call substitution therapy for helping addicts, where they give you another substance to get you off the one you are addicted to.
Okay.
The most popular one is called methadone.
Okay.
But you see, they turn around and become addicted to the methadone. So you're just replacing one addiction with the other.
Wow.
And because of that, we decided no drugs in our zone, in our area. So we're trying to get them to get off the drug and off addictions completely. So we're not replacing with anything else. How do we get them back? From day one that they get into the rehab, the family or the company or whoever is their sponsor has to begin to think of what to engage their minds with the moment they come out. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. So if you don't engage them immediately in something productive, something challenging, they probably will fall back into the old habits, because it's a habit. And habits have power and control.
Yes.
Two, especially within families, you don't keep reminding the person every time they act out of character. You say, Indian head,
Okay.
cocaine head, look at you. It's because of that tramadol has messed up your brain. No. Even people who don't take tramadol or cocaine make mistakes.
Of course.
They act out of turn. So if you don't let the person forget that they ever were in that place, the constant harassment is going to constitute pain and trauma, and they will go back to the thing, because every addiction is a product of fear or pain. Every single addiction is either a response to fear or a response to pain.
Wow.
So when you keep hurting the person by refusing them to, you are creating another pain, and they will just simply fall back. So it's like your child. If your child does something wrong, you spank the child, but the child, some of them will come back to you, "Mommy, you did not tell me sorry." What do you say? "Okay, sorry, my son."
But
And you hold the child, but you have established the boundary.
Something, yes,
absolutely. So those are the three components that you need: the love, the attention, and the confrontation.
Love. That's a good one. And what the ages are they like? What are the ages of these children? Like the one you have in the center, are they between?
I run an adult rehab center, so most of my patients are mostly from 18 years old. Although they've brought me 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and the ones that are really bad, we have been forced to take them because there's nowhere else to send them. And so, but we operate mainly an adult rehab center, so we have patients from 18 years old and above.
And you have good results from
yes,
this?
Well, God has helped us. We run a Christian rehab.
Yes, of course.
So we're not, we are aware that there is a spiritual component to addiction that you must address, otherwise you're wasting your time. Addiction is two sides of a coin. One side is a learned behavior, but the other side is demonically energized, definitely. So you handle that. But don't get me wrong, we do deliverance in our rehab, but deliverance in rehabilitation is not laying hands on people and having them fall and convulse. No, rehabilitation is for us a product of constant information and knowledge. The entrance of the word brings light and understanding. The entrance of information brings understanding. The Bible says that my people perish not for lack of anointing, it's for lack of knowledge. So most times when they bring them, the first thing we do is to show them 3D imaging of the brain on different substances. So I will ask them, what do you take? If they say Indian hemp, I show them the brain of a person who's taking Indian hemp, a normal brain, and the brain of a marijuana addict. And they're like, is that happening in my brain right now? I'm like, yeah. They're like, no, I don't want this. I don't want this. And I show them the progression from when you start to psychosis, to starting to walk on the street and tearing your clothes off. I show them the progression. And most of them are like, no. So it's not just the pleasure I feel. There's damage being done. I said, physically your brain is being damaged. And most of them decide from that moment, I'm not doing this. So once we get that cooperation from them, the rest of it is gradual work of re-engineering the brain, redirecting their thoughts in the right direction. And then we have had a good measure of success, because once you bring God whoever your God is.
Yeah.
When I say I run a Christian rehab, I don't turn away Muslims. I don't turn away Hindus. I don't turn away the only people we turn away are atheists, the ones who say there is no God.
No God.
If you don't have a higher power that you let me use the word subscribe to, we can't help you. But if a Muslim comes, I tell them when the Christians are praying, you better be in the corner, putting your head on the ground and praying, engaging your spirituality.
Yeah.
So the ages vary. The youngest we've had in our rehab was 14. The 13-year-old we didn't take in because I was worried about the influence of the older ones on the 13-year-old.
Okay.
So we've had a 14-year-old, and the oldest we've had in our rehab is 59. Wow, 59. Yeah.
Okay, let's quickly take this last question before we go on a quick break now. What's the aftermath of this drug on these abusers? After you're wrapped, what's the aftermath? Like,
well, many things can go wrong. Okay. Many things, depending on the substance.
Okay.
All of them mess with the brain. Number one, all of them mess with the brain. They mess with the electrical. In the brain, there are two things going on at every point in time: chemical impulses and electrical impulses. And drugs mess with the two. Okay. That's one. Two, all of them physically alter the brain. Physically. So they eat up chunks of the brain like acid eats skin. And they damage the brain cells. For that's what leads to the psychosis. Because if enough brain cells are damaged, after a while, when they hear you say, don't go to that place where you smoke in there, they'll say, yes, mommy. But as you leave, they go back. Why? The part of the brain that should interpret that message for it to make sense has been chopped off by the drug. So he doesn't interpret the message. He hears you, but he goes right ahead and does. So that's the true brain damage. So that has to. Then depending on the substances, with alcohol, apart from the brain damage, you have cirrhosis of the liver, which can affect the kidneys, which can affect the spleen, which can affect the heart.
So alcohol can be abused.
Oh, absolutely. The oldest patient I had in the rehab was an alcoholic. Alcohol can be horribly abused. I am running a rehab center because of what alcohol did in my family. It's not my original area of training. I was trained as an electrical engineer. But when I saw what alcohol did with my family and there was nowhere to take them, it became necessary to set up a place like that.
Thank you, viewers. Still with us on The Mirror. We're going to do a quick break, and when we come back, Reverend Christy Bature is still here with us. Don't go away. Viewers, you're welcome back to the show. This is The Mirror with Beauty Benjamin, and this morning we've been talking about the youths and drugs. And still with me in the studio is Reverend Christy Bature Ogbuefi, and she's still right here. Man, I would like to know, like some parents, they're lost in managing their children, and when such a parent discover that his or her child is involved in drug abuse, now how would such parents, how would they cope, how would they manage it? Because normal managing the children, it's a difficult task for some parents. Then discovering that your child is into drug abuse to that extent, when you discover it, how do you
most parents start by getting angry and beating the child, threatening the child. That's not going to solve any problem.
Are you okay?
Beating is not going to stop the child. Threats will not. One of the first things you can do is love the child.
Okay.
Sit with your child, counsel your child. Then you need external counseling.
Okay.
Find a counselor and send your child to. You need to find out what your child is taking. So that drug test is imperative. Very imperative. And one of the things parents do when they find their children are taking drugs is they try to hide and cover. Hey, let nobody know. Your child is dying. A family came to us.
Brings us back to stigmatization. Now people are scared of it.
I don't care. So you'll be worried about people who don't contribute a dime
to you,
to raising your family, to feeding your family. You are so worried about them, you allow your child to waste away. Oh please. People have their own problems. All right. Now, a family came to us and said, they live too close to our rehab. They don't want their son to come there. Can we come and treat him at home? I said, no, we don't do. Rehab is not home treatment. It's not home visits
at all.
So, do you know they left that boy? He's now stuck raving mad. Oh. And he now roams the very streets they were worried about. Oh. And people see him now and they know him as a madman. He kept taking the drugs until he lost his mind.
They're just concerned about what society
what people will say.
What people will say.
Please forget people and help your child.
Okay.
If they have to go to a rehab center to be taken care of, send them there.
Okay.
If they have to go to a counseling center to be counseled, send them there. Check their friends. Show them examples. One of the ways that I have gotten young people to pay attention is, if you look at the pictures of Majek Fashek, when he started singing, and when the drugs ate him up, it's shocking. Whitney Houston.
Very, very.
So I use that and I'm like, ultimately, this is where you're going. Whitney Houston didn't imagine she would be looking like this in a short while when she took the first. Majek was at the peak of his international career when he started. And this is where, when they see that, it's like, this is a possibility. Okay, ma, what do I do? So get your children to see the consequences. But first of all, just love the child. Don't threaten, don't shout, don't fight. You can go and cry in the room. You can go and rage in the room, shout in the room. Don't do it to the child. You do that, they go underground and do worse things right under your nose.
Wow.
Yeah, but if you open up that door of friendship and love with your child, they will fall, but they won't be afraid to say to you, Mommy, I'm still struggling, help me. Mommy, I'm still struggling, help me. And please, let's not just focus on drugs alone. Pornography is a big addiction now.
Seriously?
Yes, pornography is a big addiction. With the social media and internet and everything, yes. It's a big deal. Sex is an addiction too. And kids are experimenting with these things at younger and younger ages with each year that passes. The youngest sex offender in the world was arrested at age 6. And it's a 6-year-old that raped a 2-year-old baby.
Oh my God, it's madness. I don't think it's coming from maybe because of the rapid, rape cases that is coming up. This one,
I don't know. Well, the rape is a product of what's going on in the mind, and what's going on in the mind.
6 years old doing with it.
Yeah, because he's seen it. He's been exposed to pornography, violent porn, and he's practicing what he saw. In his mind, he's not molesting a person. He's simply repeating what he saw. That's a child. He doesn't know much.
Of course.
But he's been exposed to these things, and they've taken root in him. So all of those things need to be.
So we're not just dealing with the drug abuse.
No. Sex. 13-year-olds are ganging up to rape girls. Yeah,
I've seen a lot of that.
So these are all addictions. So we have to also look at all those ones. Again, it is a function of being friends with your child, paying attention to your child.
How do we get the parents into this, being friends with your child and paying attention in a world like ours today? Everybody's craving for pursuing money, pursuing career, pursuing fame.
You've answered the question. In the pursuit, have boundaries. Draw a line and be there for the children. Decide, okay, I'll go, but this time is for the children. It's so critical. It's so important. It's so needed.
Very needed.
Another thing is, we were raised differently. And we want to raise the children the way we were raised. It won't work. When I was a child, if my mother gives you one look, you understand? Your brain will interpret that look wherever you are. Whatever she's saying, that look is enough. Now you give your child a look, you say, Mommy, is there something is there something in your eye? It's so different. So parents have to get educated on how to connect with the children of this age. My baby picks up my phone and does things on my phone. I'm like, where do you get that? I say, Mommy, is on your phone. I have no clue that such a thing is there. They're so way ahead.
So way ahead.
So we need to step up our game. We need to get educated and know how to connect with them at this stage.
Okay, now before we go to the final question now, what do you think the government, private organizations, companies, what can they do? There must be something people should do about this thing. It's like you have started very well. It's a personal thing you're doing. But what do you think other people, government should do about it? Because this thing is ravaging our society.
I think that one of the first things government can do is to draw up a curriculum of drug awareness and drug abuse campaign as early as primary school.
Okay.
In social studies, we can include a module that has drug use, drug abuse, drug addiction as a part of the social studies. In secondary school, the same thing. In universities, the same thing. Education is what shapes people.
Yeah.
You know that your child in primary school can argue with you because what you are saying is different from what her teacher said.
Yes.
My auntie said,
yes.
My uncle said,
and they will stand on it.
And they will stand by it, even if what uncle said is wrong. So, if there is such a dogmatic belief in the teachers, then we can leverage on that.
Yeah.
Government can start. I believe that if the children are educated, you know, I run a rehab center. One of my daughters went to university at the age of 18 in the US. After her first semester exam, she called me. Mommy, I want to ask you a question. I said, well, she said, is 18 synonymous with stupidity? I said, what kind of question is that? She said, Mommy, most of my classmates are 18. And they keep coming to me, trying to convince me to take Indian hemp. She said some of them are drinking alcohol and smoking. Some are taking Indian, some are even doing cocaine. She said every day they will come. You are 18. Your parents can't tell you what to do anymore. Get a life. Have this thing. It will help you to focus. She said, Mommy, why I'm asking you now is this. After our first semester exam, the heaviest users failed. And they dropped out of school after one semester. She said, but what is annoying me or surprising me now is that the ones that managed to pass are still coming to me to convince me to take in their hand. Life will never stop throwing curveballs at you. Life will never stop being difficult at certain points. Are you going to keep self-destructing every time life pushes you into a corner, or you're going to find healthier ways to deal with life as life comes at you? That's what I would say to people that are watching.
Wow. Thank you so much, Reverend. It's been wonderful having you on the show here. And I'm sure that sometime soon, the Mirror will also invite you for other aspects of this rehab.
No.
We are glad to have you here. Viewers, thank you so much for staying with us this week on the topic youth and drugs. For your comments, observation, participation, and sponsorship, like our page, you scroll the number, call the number, and we'll get back to you. Thank you very much. Same time next week. I am Beauty Benjamin.